Don't have to ask him twice. Oh, that's good. We'll get a report next time. But thank you, TM, for being available, even in your busy schedule, because I didn't get to say anything yet, but I've been going to your Leadership on Demand room. I first connected with you in Chris Novosels's room, and then we go over there. And gosh, I have grown so much, but people often hear me saying here, we talked about in TM's room. We talked about in TM's room. We talked about in TM's room because you've helped me grow so much. So I'm so super appreciative of you and really cannot wait to attend the event. So click the link before we switch to Dr. Janie, amazing Dr. Janie. Can't wait to see. I hope some people from here will show up to the event. We'd love to have you at the event, but also if you're part of the BWC crew, reach out for the meetup information. And the link will go into the chat. And again, thank you, TM. We will hand over to Dr. Janie. Good morning, Dr. Janie.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Good morning, Mary Lynn. Good morning, TM. I absolutely
Hey, my friend. How are you, Doc?
I am doing well, TM, and I truly, truly enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, what ice cream you like. And so happy and proud of your progress, as you were mentioning the growth and the progress of so many and your evolution and journey coming to the breakfast table. But we are proud of you and your continuous evolution, and to hear your passion and your purpose and helping people bring out the leader in each and every one of them, because we do all have a leader inside of us. And there was a couple of things that I was hearing you, TM, and Mary Lynn have a conversation about that I want to piggyback off, and I want to really spotlight this to those that are listening. And the two words that jumped out at me was growth and people. That as long as we are breathing, and as long as we are alive, TM, Mary Lynn, Mary Kim, Angeline, Trisha, that there is more for us to do in this world. And each and every single one of us has our own individual path. But as we continue to grow from the inside out, that's where we're going to get that confidence, because when we know who we are, we know whose we are, and we also get self-awareness. And part of that self-awareness is discernment, which leads me to the second word I kept hearing, and that was people. That people that hold up, I know for me, TM and Mary Lynn, people held up the ladder for me along the way. They held up the ladder, and there were spaces and places that I was able to move into, not because it was by my own strength and by myself. It was either because people were speaking my name in rooms that I was not even in, or someone had experience with me, right? So understanding that we cannot do this life alone, that we need people, we need community, which is why the breakfast table has been such an instrumental part of all of our lives. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't still be connected. Now, many of you have met in person, Mary Lynn and Christina and Mary Kim and UTM. And I'm sure there are others that I'm not mentioning right now, Felicia. So many of you that I've gotten to meet and spend time with in person. And it's been such an honor and a blessing. But one of the things that I also know without a doubt, TM, is that people have also been hurt in relationships, which also can prevent them from being vulnerable, for stepping out, for really taking risk in life. And one of the things that I believe, right, now that we heard some motivation, I want to educate people so that when we are educated and we understand, I know one of the things that I had lacked in my life, especially coming from where I came from, was discernment of people, places, and things that may not have been healthy for me or may not have been looking out for my best interest. But when we're educated and we can take our lived experiences and we can learn about the human nature, we can learn about psychology, we can learn about, the dark triads and these types of things, then we can be more equipped and have confidence to be able to step out and make decisions to who we want to partner with, who we want to listen to, who we want to follow, who we want to. I heard you mention, TM, about being influenced by your ex-girlfriend to even be on Clubhouse. So then that also means who we're going to be in relationship with, because when you're in, whether you're married, single, or you want to be in a relationship, these people that you decide to allow in your life, are going to influence your decisions. So, one of the things I want to help us today is understanding, in particular, I made this comment in one of the previous segments, and I always keep track of the DMs that I get after our segments. And one of them was wanting me to speak more about mirroring. So I want to do that to this morning so that I can help educate you so that you understand when people are unhealthy, or in particular, I will use the word are narcissistic. And we have narcissistic personality disorder, and then we have those that are higher in narcissistic traits. Today, I'm referring to those that are higher narcissistic traits. It'd be a whole nother conversation when we talk about the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. So I don't know if you're in Clubhouse, if you're in the chat, if you've heard of mirroring, you can go ahead and put a 1 in the chat, because I do want to talk about mirroring and understanding mirroring in narcissistic abusive relationships and giving you a path to recovery. Because I don't know how many of you, I'm going to make a little fun here, but how many of you have seen the movie Coming to America, right? The first one, where we continue to see these memes where he's coming to meet his potential bride, and he's asking her all these questions, and all she was doing was pretty much putting it back on him, whatever he liked, right? So whatever he wants to eat. So when we're talking about mirroring, we're talking about that, but in a very serious way, because people have been hurt, people have been disappointed, and people have been surprised. Because in relationships, individuals, right, as an individual, we want to have validation, and we want to have understanding from the people we are in relationship with. Primarily, I'm going to be referring to romantic relationships, but this also applies to the workplace. It applies to your friendship. It applies to business deals. When people are coming into your life that have ulterior motives other than, yesterday I posted on my social media on Facebook that healthy people, keyword, healthy people truly want what's best for those around them. And that's what we were hearing this morning when we were listening in on the conversation between Mary Lynn and TM. Good, healthy people truly want what's best for the people around them. So we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the unhealthy people that may have ulterior motives. And then what they will do is they're specifically targeting people that may not have discernment, are vulnerable, or who are hungry. And then that hunger is getting taken advantage of. So for victims of people who are unhealthy or have higher narcissistic traits, the desire for connection, right? Because we all desire to be connected and to be in community. And if we're not, then I'm usually wondering who's hurt us or what has happened in relationship to other people. Because that desire for connection can be exploited through manipulative tactics that we know as called mirroring. And if you've been in a relationship with someone who's been unhealthy, whether it's romantic, business, or a friendship, what I'm about to walk you through, you're going to be able to relate to. And the goal is that you become more aware and you become more educated. So as you are growing through your life, that you are well equipped to understand human nature and the psychology of people that you may encounter. Because when we consider this behavior, and most of the time, and especially in our field, we commonly look at this behavior as used by people who are controlling, manipulative, unhealthy, in the sense of perhaps having higher narcissistic traits, because their aim, Mary Kim, is to control and manipulate their victim. And they'll do this by creating a false sense of intimacy. So think about this. If you've ever heard of yourself or someone else saying this to you, well, oh, I feel like I've known you all my life. I feel like you're my twin, right? If they're a healthy person, they may have good intentions. But if they are not a healthy person and they're looking to manipulate you, they use these types of statements to disarm you, to make you feel safe so that you put down your guard and you let them in quicker than if you were truly using your discernment. So in today's segment, I want us to explore what mirroring is, how it works, and its impact on you if this has been part of something you've experienced. So first, let's even just look at what is mirroring. right? In the context of unhealthy relationships or narcissistic abusive relationships, we're looking at this as someone who is intimidating, or they're pretty much reflecting back your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So, like TM, if you like Haagen-Dazs ice cream, so does she. If you like to go to the beach, so does he. Whatever it may be, all of a sudden you think you've met the person who is your, and I don't believe in this, but people, twin flames, my soulmate, all these types of things that people will say to create that false sense of intimacy. So when we think about the unhealthy person, or we'll call it the narcissistic person, just for the sake of our conversation, they're going to study, Christina, what you like, what you dislike, what your preferences are, what your values are, and they're going to adopt those same characteristics. And they do that to create an illusion of being the perfect partner for you. And today, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, sometimes the mirroring can happen online. That if someone truly is looking at you as someone that they want to manipulate or control or have in their life because there's some transaction they want with you, they can look at your social media, John, and they can learn all about you. So that when they're meeting you, they can mirror back what they've already studied because of our digital footprint, because of all the things that we put online. And they can make this false sense that they know you because they've already studied you. Well, John, you like to go skiing? You know what? How about this? And the next thing you know, you're disarmed because you're talking about something that you enjoyed and that you liked. And before we know it, we're down the rabbit hole with this person before we even realize that we don't even know this person. But we have this false sense of connection because they studied us and they made us feel like they knew us to become potentially that perfect partner, that perfect business person, that perfect friend, whatever their motive is wanting to come into our life. Because this tactic will foster, and it is a false sense of intimacy, making the victim or making you feel understood and connected. So just how, and I want you to think about this, especially if you've had an experience with this, how does mirroring work? In the context of manipulative, unhealthy people, we hear this term all the time called love bombing. So when we look at that initial phase, that's exactly what happens, because the love bombing phase or the mirroring phase is meant to disarm you. And it's a technique so that you become so overwhelmed with whether it's excessive connection or attention or affection or compliments, whatever that may be. And we also know, just for a side note, that not all love bombing comes face fronting when it comes to affection, love, compliments. It can also be where they studied you, right? So let's say, Natasha, that you are a single mother and that person wants to come into your life and they realize that Natasha probably needs a lot of help with things around her house. So they can be volunteering to help you with putting up that light in your house or helping you fix that refrigerator, whatever it may be. And it's not necessarily love bombing in the sense of giving you gifts or giving you lots of affection, but it's finding out, what does Natasha exactly need? What's her greatest need? And let me fulfill that. And we know healthy people have good intentions. We're not talking about that. We're talking about unhealthy people who are going to study you to find out exactly what your need is. And they're going to come in and swoop in and save the day. So love bombing doesn't necessarily have to come into the sense of the way that we hear it from like a grandiose standpoint. It can be, what is her greatest need? And I'm going to come in and I'm going to be that person to fix it. There are many times where I'm working in particular with women, and they'll tell me that they start dating their handyman, that they hired this handyman who's in their house, who is now looking around. I'm talking about from an unhealthy standpoint. And he's looking around and seeing all the things that she needed. And the next thing you know, he's volunteering and he's doing things and he's doing certain things for free. And then the next thing you know, she's telling me the story, how they ended up dating or how they ended up, hooking up or whatever it may be. And her head is swiveling because she doesn't know how it happened. Well, I'm telling you how it happened. So I really want you to think about whether it's one of the things I've learned, especially from a business standpoint, right? Slow to hire, quick to fire. I know I used to be someone that was quick to hire because wow, this is the perfect employee, you know exactly blah blah blah, and it turned out not to be so much, right? Because people can mirror exactly what we're taught in interviewing is study the position, study the company, so then you're going in and you're curating a way to impress the employer. So I'm not necessarily saying it's completely unhealthy. Remember, I'm talking about unhealthy people that are using these strategies to manipulate you. Because then in that love bombing phase where they've studied you and they understand what you like and you dislike, your hobbies and your aspirations, and before you know it, you're thinking, wow, I found the perfect employee there, or the perfect potential partner, or I want to hang out with this friend. They do that because number two, and how mirroring works, is it truly creates, Chima, a false intimacy, right? So as you become emotionally invested in this relationship, then the person who's manipulative, we'll call it the narcissist, shifts from that love bombing to mirroring, because now they've adopted your mannerisms. They now have the same opinions as you, or very closely held opinions, closely held behaviors, which creates that false sense of familiarity and connection. So, on the other hand, side note, when I'm helping women or men getting out of unhealthy relationships, it becomes so strong because of that trauma bonding of familiarity and connection, and that intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes they're there for you, sometimes they're not there for you. So, you're constantly trying to get back to that feeling of when they're there for you. And that kind of keeps you on the hook and keeps you connected and keeps you bonded. So, then when your friends come along and say, Judy, why don't you just leave him? He's no good. And then Judy starts feeling ashamed because she knows it's not that easy, because she knows, yes, he has these bad traits, but he also has these good traits. And she just wants these good traits, right? Because he has created a sense of familiarity and connection and this addictive pattern to come here, go away. The same thing can happen in other relationships where it just looks different when it comes to the workplace or it comes to friendships. Because you may have found that you found someone who truly understands you and you've accepted them and they accept you, which then reinforces the person's control over you because you become vulnerable. We all become vulnerable when we feel understood, we feel loved, we feel seen, because it feels good in those moments. But then when it comes time to the confusion, like, oh, well, this doesn't feel good. Or you know what? She said that she was this, but I'm getting an opinion that this is not really who she is, but yet we're already friends, but I don't want to be mean. I feel guilty. I don't want to just cut her off, right? It's all this confusion that I hear people just do this mental gymnastics. And then they stay in these unhealthy business relationships, friendships, romantic relationships. And then they're wondering why it's difficult to get ahead in their businesses and their goals, because now they're so consumed with this relationship and it's always in the back of their mind as they're trying to move forward. And then anxiety can set in, depression. So let's keep it moving. Number 3, then after that false sense of intimacy sets into the relationship, then that's where the manipulation and the exploitation continues to happen. Priceless on TikTok. Because over time, the narcissists can use this information that they now know about you because you've given them information, you've been vulnerable, you've been sharing with them, you've given them the pillow talk, whatever it may be, the most vulnerable parts of your life. And they've gathered that information, and now through the mirroring, they can exploit it. They can manipulate you. They're throwing something back in your face. I'm sure you've had that experience, Renee. We've probably all had those experiences, Lauren, where we've shared something very vulnerable or something about maybe our childhood or a previous relationship. And the next thing you know, in a moment of disconnection, they're now saying, well, you're only this way because of this. And then they bring something back up that you shared in that moment of vulnerability, and you feel it in your stomach like, oh, ooh, that didn't feel good. And then that's where the dysfunction starts, because now you're thinking, wow, can I even trust this person? And then you start moving in the relationship guarded, hyper vigilant, waiting for the next shoe to drop. Because what will happen is they've now turned your vulnerabilities and your desires against you. And then what happens is then our sense of self-worth or self-esteem starts becoming eroded. And then it becomes this entanglement in this web of confusion and self-doubt. And how can you truly, truly, Bella, like go after your goals with a vengeance, with confidence, with a flow and clarity, when back home, you know you have this dysfunctional relationship, or you've hired these dysfunctional employees that now has become your friend, and now you're entangled and your mind is consumed. So let's look at this impact that this can have on you, because we know that the effects, I would not be having a job and a career if I did not know this, Judy, that the effects of mirroring can be profound and damaging to so many people. And then we talk about taking control and being leaders of our own life. It becomes very difficult when you're in this cycle and you're in this loop and you're trying to figure out how to get out of it. Because we know that every single one of us wants to feel validated, wants to feel connected, as though your thoughts and your feelings truly are mirrored back to you. We literally teach in healthy communication, we literally teach a technique called mirroring, right? So think about this. And this can also be exploited. This is why you need to understand this. When you go to, I know many of us don't go to McDonald's because we're all eating healthy, joke. But whether you're going to McDonald's or Panera Bread or wherever there is a drive-through, and you're saying, I want that you pick two, I want that Southwest salad with Chipotle sandwich, whatever it may be. What do you hear back through that speaker in the drive-through? You hear the mirror back. So you want that Southwest salad and you want that Chipotle sandwich. Did I get that right? Right? In some form or fashion, they mirror back what they thought they heard you order to make sure they got it right. So we teach that in the form of what we call couples dialogue. That in order to move past before you get to solving problems, you have to make sure you heard the person correctly. But when we're looking at exploitive people, they're listening and studying you to make sure they got it right so they can exploit you later on. And this makes it very difficult for you to recognize the manipulation behind the tactic. And this is where we have to get real discerning about people, places, and things before we do business, before we enter relationships, before we allow friendships to move from up to that pillar of safe people, right? John Townsend book, Safe People. It's a great read if you want to understand this, right? But he has a pyramid. The top of that pyramid is safe people. We should all have 1 to 2 people, but it takes time to get up there. The bottom of that pyramid is acquaintances. We talk about our Haagen-Dazs ice cream, right? Or our favorite coffee. And then the middle of that pyramid is people we spend time with. They start moving towards friendship, but it takes time. People who want to exploit you, people who want to mirror you in order to manipulate you, they're going to move very quickly. They're going to fast track the relationship, whether it's business, romantic, or friendship. And you want to be mindful of people feel very fast tracked to you. And this is where our inner work comes into play. Because if we have learned from a young person, as a young child, to deny our own reality because our parents or whoever was outside of us was always correct and we were not, we have to now process, and we have to rebuild that template to understand that we have what we need inside of us. We have to lean into our discernment. We need to understand that sometimes our body's letting us know that someone's not safe, and we have to pay attention to that. Because what can happen as far as an impact on you is a loss of self-worth. As the relationship progresses, that person's manipulation is going to lead to a loss of self-worth, which then leads to depression, anxiety, self-doubt, and not wanting to make decisions. And you're going to struggle with your own thoughts and your own feelings because of what's being mirrored back by that unhealthy person who's slowly chipping away at who you are. But quickly, a couple of things I want you to think about if this is something you relate to. How do you recover from this? We won't talk about how you get the person out of your life. That would take a lot more than a few minutes. But I want you to first think about recognizing manipulation tactics. And if you feel it or there's something off, you need to lean into that. You need to understand that there's some type of warning system that's going off on you for a reason. But Renee, sometimes what I'll hear people say, especially in my office, is they want the evidence, they want the proof, whether it's someone betraying them, whether someone's lying to them. They're like, I need the proof because then I can confront them. Sometimes all you need is that intuitive nature, your discernment to say something is not right here. But what will happen is we will ignore it because the belief is that I need to understand, I need to see the proof. But in order to regain the sense of self, first you have to really understand how to establish boundaries. But many people don't have boundaries. We hear it all the time about having boundaries, but there are a lot of people who are afraid to have boundaries because they don't want to lose the person. They don't want to upset someone. They don't want to hurt someone. And we were hearing TM talk about that this morning, about not speaking his truth as long as he was respectful, because he didn't want to hurt people. That's a lack of boundaries. How many times did you relate to that, where you don't share your truth or you don't confront out of love, out of respect, because you don't want to hurt people? So that keeps your feelings inside of you suppressed. And when our feelings are suppressed, and that means, I know at some point in time, you're either going to completely shut down or you're going to, out of nowhere, you're going to explode and you're going to go off. And then people are like, where did that come from? I'm looking at what is she or he suppressing? And if you don't necessarily know, okay, well, I'm relating to this, but I don't know how to establish boundaries and I know something is off, then maybe it's time to seek professional help. Maybe that is a coach, maybe that is a therapist, or maybe that's someone in your life who can act as a mentor, who has enough wisdom and enough objectivity in your life where they can speak to it. Or maybe it's time that you start building a support system. People who, as I was hearing the conversation this morning, we hear it all the time about the sum of the people around us. We also know that we can only grow to the capacity of the wisdom and the people around us as well. So build that support system of people who are supportive, who are mirroring back your greatness, not to manipulate you, but to help motivate you, and that are not going to judge you by you walking through dark seasons in your life. And that will be there for you in your recovery process as you regain your sense of self. And one more comment, and then I do want to hear from a few people on Clubhouse, is part of that recovery process is we have to reconnect with ourselves. In order for us to truly go for our goals and walk with purpose and walk with meaning, what is it that you want, Tiffany? What are your needs, Judy? What are your values? How do you separate from the person who's been influencing you? Because that's going to be crucial for rebuilding your self-esteem and rebuilding and reclaiming your personal identity. So last comment, mirroring is a powerful tool, and it's used by unhealthy, narcissistic, abusive people to manipulate and control you. So you have to understand this tactic. Not everyone has our best interest in mind, and this is where your discernment comes into play, because the impact that it can have on you can affect your self-esteem, your self-worth. But you can be empowered to break free from any type of cycle of abuse by continuing to educate yourself, be around healthy people, because I want you to remember, if you don't remember anything else that I said this morning, that you deserve genuine love and respect. Now, I would love to hear a few comments on Clubhouse. Open your mic, say your name, what's your comment, what resonated with you?
Good morning, Dr. Cheney. This is Christine. You really hit it right on the nose. I have been in a narcissistic, can't say the word this morning, narcissistic relationship, and I even married it. At the end of the day, I thought it was me. Come to find out, like, he used every tactic he could to bring me down, and that caused me to make wrong decisions in my personal and in business, and now it's at the point where I'll sleep in one room and he'll sleep in another. It's like, this is demeaning. And I'm like, we just need to get a divorce, and you go your way and I go my way, because I'm not growing. And I'm the one that like to grow. I listen to Clubhouse, I listen to motivation, and I do try new things. And I try it, and then next thing you know, I'm right back down on the ground again because of my subconscious constantly playing right back at me. Well, what did he said this about me? Or what did that person over there think about me? So right now I want to be healed, and I've been praying and going in a different direction with my life. because it's just not fair. It do make you feel very bad about yourself. And I know, as me being a woman and a child of God, he didn't bring me on this earth to be miserable and crying and wondering why I can't get ahead or whatever. But you hit it right on the nail, right on the head, and I appreciate you. And I love listening to you. And thank you for allowing me to share.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your vulnerability and opening your mic and speaking of your story, because there's someone else who's listening and who understands. And there's no shame. There is no shame, because there are a lot of people that are 20 years, 30 years, some are 1 year, 6 months, it doesn't matter. Trauma bonds is very, very powerful and very strong. And yes, people can intellectually know that they're married to someone who's narcissistic, or they're in a relationship with someone who's narcissistic. It's not that easy just to walk away. So there has to be specific things over time. The first thing that you just mentioned was you having a growth mindset, and you taking the steps to focus on you and growing. That's the first step anyone can do. So we appreciate you, and we will continue to pray for you, because you are exactly right. You deserve God's best for you to walk in your meaning and to walk in your purpose and have great impact on this world, because you have a lived experience. And one day you are going to be helping other people through their lived experience. And there's never no shame and no guilt. It's lived experiences, and we continue to learn and grow from it. So we appreciate you. And I know we're up at the hour. If anyone has 30 seconds, if they want to say anything, I'll give you that time. If not, I'll go ahead and pass it on. 30 seconds. All right. Well, this is Dr. Janie Lacey, and this was your Therapy Thursday. And I hope something resonated with you, to know that you matter, you deserve love, you deserve respect, and one day at a time. And there is help out there for you if you need it. So until next time, I'm turning it over to Lolita Walker. Hi, Lolita. Did I not see Lolita? Am I turning it over to someone else, Mary Lynn?